is Mari Lane from the Buying Space channel. Today I am reading from the Torah in chapter 31. Oh, I forgot. This Torah is read like manga. The end of the book, where the end of the book would normally be, is the beginning. So Genesis is in the back of the book, and you turn the pages this way. We are in chapter 31, and this Torah is using Roman initials. On this side is the Hebrew. On this side is the English translation, translated directly from the Hebrew. So this may sound a little different. Oh, that threw me off. It's also divided into sections. Traditional Old Testament in a Christian Bible, not from a Torah or Jewish, a Jewish version would be the Torah. But anyway, it doesn't normally have this. So that's 32. And I'm on verse, I believe, 41. No, I've already read that. Let's see. Okay, this is where Jacob leaves Laban, his father-in-law, and he's going home. He's taking his 2 wives and his children. Jacob is the father of the 12 sons that were the start of the 12 tribes of Israel. And he also has at least 1 daughter. And he worked for Laban 20 years for his 2 wives, 7 years for each of his wives, and then an additional 6 years to have his own flock. And I covered that in the previous Bible readings or Torah readings. So I'm going to start on verse 41. These 20 years have I been in thy house, and I have served the 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for my flocks. That's what I just said. I know I've already read this, but I'm going to read it again to add continuity to the reading. And thou hast changed my wages 10 times. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac, had been with me, surely thou wouldest now have sent me away empty. All my affliction and labor of my hands God hath seen and decided yesternight. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, the daughters are my daughters, and the children are my children. In other words, these are my grandchildren. They're not just yours, they're also mine. And the flocks are my flocks. Well, Jacob's flocks were born out of Laban's flocks, but they were his. They made an agreement. And all that thou seest is mine. But as to my daughters, what can I do unto them this day, or unto their children, whom they have here? And now, come, let us make a covenant. So basically, he's saying, your family is my family. So there's nothing I can do except accept the situation. So he's finally coming to see how God has blessed Jacob and agreeing with it. Or not agreeing with it, he's just coming to peace of mind about it. Let's say that. He still has his own opinion, of course. I and thou have let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, gather stones. And they took the stones and made a heap. And they ate there upon the heap. And Laban called it Yegareth Dua, but Jacob called it Gilad. And Laban said unto him, This heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore call he upon the name of Gilad and Mizpah, for he said, The Lord shall watch between me and thee, and when we are absent from the other. If thou shouldest afflict my daughters, or if thou shouldest take other wives besides my daughters, there is no man with us. See, God is witness between me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast up between me and thee. Witness be this heap, and witness be this pillar, that I will not pass by this heap, and that from thou shalt not pass unto me by this heap and this pillar for evil. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor shall judge between us. Now, Nahor was the deity that Laban worshipped, and Jacob worshipped Yahweh, the God of Abraham, the God of their father. But Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob slew some cattle upon the mount, and called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread, and tarried all night on the mount. So basically, after that, they had a feast to seal their agreement. And why do you think it was so important to Laban that Jacob take no other wives? Now, Jacob had children by his wife's handmaidens, but those handmaidens were under the dominion of his two wives, and they were done with consent. But he didn't want any other woman to receive any of the inheritance of what Jacob was taking with him. He didn't want any other children that would not be his grandchildren to receive Jacob's inheritance. So in a way, he solidified Laban by saying, this is my flock, these are my grandchildren, these are my daughters. He solidified that his line would receive the inheritance from Jacob, and the stuff that Jacob earned. He might not think he earned it, but Jacob did earn through working for Laban and laboring for Laban for 20 years. So he's like, okay, you can have this, but we're not going to share this with anybody but my grandchildren. That was a very wise thing for Laban to do. And a lot of people these days, they marry and divorce, and they don't think about any kind of legacy for their children. That's one of the reasons that, monogamy is, and staying unmarried a long time, that's more, it's to the benefit of the couple, absolutely, but it's also to the benefit of the children, because there are no questions. People these days, their families are so complicated. I'm not being judgy. I'm just saying, Laban, the way he thought about it, he was very long-sighted in how he thought about how his family was built and remaining loyal to people in his bloodline. That was very important to him. And I think it's still important when you're everybody needs like an estate planner to look at these things. But as you go through life, you should think about these things. I dated a man one time, and he said, every time we go to bed, we need to think about who we're taking into this bedroom with us. How many people does our relationship influence? And I thought that was a very wise thing for him to tell me. And I dated him in my 20s. He was in his 30s, but he was wise beyond being in his 30s. And that always stayed with me. So you think about that every time, when you marry, are you thinking about what your grandchildren, your great grandchildren are going to be, and how they're going to be taken care of, and what lineage, no, not necessarily lineage, but legacy are you leaving for the future? So I think Laban, even though he did change Jacob's wages so many times and tried to take the financial advantage of Jacob, I think in a lot of ways he was wise, and he kept control of his household, because Jacob was really the one making the money, but he was making the money with his flock, and he was producing children with his daughters. So that does need to be respected. And I think he was wise to make this covenant with Jacob and go back home and rebuild, or not rebuild, because when you get to a certain age, you're done rebuilding. But, to let Jacob go and let his lineage be prosperous, even if it's in another land, and his daughters to be happy and cared for and respected. I like the way that the relationship here ended between the two of them.